Welcome, Corporate Alley Cat, to Are You LinkedIn Lazy? We're going to share 3 reasons why you may not be getting responses to your LinkedIn messages and, more importantly, how to fix it. So, if you are live or if you're going to be looking at a replay, I want to know, where are you calling from? And what's top of mind as it relates to LinkedIn? All right. So, I can't see the comments right now, but I want to welcome everyone. And I think this is going to be a great conversation. So, the first thing I want to find out from folks is, how frequently do you use LinkedIn? Can you drop that in the comments? Are you on LinkedIn every day, once a week, 2 times a week? Let me know. And while you're doing that, let me introduce myself. We have some new Corporate Alley Cats. My name is Deborah Owens, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Corporate Alley Cat. Our goal is to help Black and Brown professionals, managers, and leaders navigate a corporate environment and to provide tools and strategies to address those unique experiences that we have and no one else has. So again, we're going to talk about LinkedIn. 3 reasons why you may not be getting the responses to your messages that you want, or why you aren't able to build a relationship, a real relationship on LinkedIn. And then we're going to tell you how to fix it. All right. So let's get started. The first thing I want to talk about is LinkedIn. It's a platform, we all know, to connect businesses, employers, peers, like-minded people, shared interest industries. And I can see the comments, and people are saying they're on LinkedIn every day. So listen, are you building relationships? Are you connecting live with people? Let me know. So are you building relationships? Are you taking it offline? Are you having Zoom calls? I want to know, because that will help me give you the right information. So I want to start with this term, LinkedIn lazy. Now, part of this is I thought it was catchy, but there is LinkedIn lazy. And put a yes in the comments if you know what I'm talking about. LinkedIn lazy. I joke and say I can see LinkedIn lazy a mile away. And so what does LinkedIn lazy look like? Well, the first thing is you have an incomplete profile. It looks like you may have put that profile together in 5 minutes. You may not have any comments under your photos. You don't have anything written in the about. No one knows what you talk about. You have incomplete work experience. You don't have any education in there. And that's fine. But I want you to think about, what is the purpose for LinkedIn for you? And when people go to your profile, what do you want them to know? What story are you telling with your profile? Does anybody look at it that way? Because that's how I look at resumes, LinkedIn. You're telling a story about yourself. So for some people, it's, I'm really innovative. I have a solid track record of success. I'm a phenomenal leader. What is your LinkedIn profile saying about you? And more importantly, is it saying what you want it to say? Because there are times when I was going to reach out to someone and I looked at their LinkedIn profile and I'm like, no, I don't think this is a person for me, right? Because the LinkedIn profile wasn't complete. There's no picture. I don't know who I'm talking to. So sometimes people will make judgments, right or wrong, based on your LinkedIn profile and, dare I say, the quality of your profile. Now, folks who are joining me, do you primarily use LinkedIn because you're there every day? Are you using it for job search? Are you using it to connect with people? What's your main purpose for using LinkedIn? Let me know. So the next thing I want to talk about in terms of LinkedIn lazy is your messaging. How many people send messages to folks? Let me know in the comments. And when you send messages to people, do you give the what I call the standard LinkedIn, which is, "Hi, you have an interesting profile, let's connect"? Or do you send a more personal message? Or do you say, "Hey, I saw your profile. We are in the same industry. It looks like we're working on similar projects. I'd love to, share some industry best practices." Do you usually include an ask in your message? Let me know in comments. Job search. I do, but they never respond. All right. Locating passive candidates and prospects. Okay, so that sounds like a recruiter. For someone who says they never respond, here's my question. What's your ask? What does a typical message look like that is sent by you? So if you can put that in chat, I will respond to it. All right. I always include an ask. Absolutely. You need to have an ask in there, and it needs to be clear and specific, right? So I always am a little frustrated when people send me messages because we have a community of almost 30,000. So I get a lot of messages. And sometimes people send me messages that all you have to do is turn on your computer and look it up on Google. But no, you want me to do it for you. So I usually don't respond to those messages because that does feel really LinkedIn lazy to me. And that says something to me about you, whether it's true or not. That's what that action is representing. The other thing I hate is when people send me a message and it's clear you haven't read my profile, right? So either, you saw something or you're just sending notes to random people, but look at the profile before you send a message if you haven't asked. And I'm going to show you in a minute why that will make such a difference and why you'll get a response. And then there's also no follow-up. So if you make an ask and then you don't get back to the people, that's not giving the best impression. The other thing is, how many folks who are live, give me a yes in the comments if you post regularly. Let me know. I want to see those comments. Do you post regularly? Let me know yes or no. And when I say regularly, maybe once a week. And then the next question is, do you engage on LinkedIn? Do you have conversations? Do you share your point of view? Do you repost if you see something interesting? How engaged are you? So LinkedIn is a platform, and I'm going to use a phrase that's very cliche. You get out of it what you put in, right? So it's all about connections, right? And building your network. But the easiest way to build a network is to be a connector yourself. How many people are you connecting to other people? Or are you just asking people to connect you? I really think that's the best way to build your network, is to start by sharing your network first, right? If you see somebody that you're talking to and you know someone and they should talk, make the connection. And oftentimes I make those connections on LinkedIn so that before you and the other person meet, they can see your profile, you can see their profile. Now, if you have a incomplete profile, you're already sending a message to that person. If you have typos, if you don't have anything in the about section, you're not allowing people to find out anything about you, right? You want that information there, and you want them to have the same information because you can find connection points. I'm a Howard University Bison. If there are any Bisons live on the replay, you know, right? But I say that because I connect with a lot of Howard alum. If somebody sends me a message and they're a Howard alum, I'm probably going to respond. even if it's not a good message. All right. So look for areas where you can make connections because that's the basis of building relationships. So, how do you connect with people? So, oh, thank you, Taquia. Taquia. Have you had any live conversations like Zoom calls with folks? That's what I want to know. I know people are posting, they're making connections, but how many people are actually talking face to face? This information is really important to me. So please take a minute in the comments, let me know. Are you having live conversations face to face on Zoom with people you connected with on LinkedIn? So please put that in the comments because that's going to tell me a lot. So if you're just connecting with people and you guys aren't talking, I don't know, that's a very low level connection. And there's probably not going to be a lot of value if you're not following up or if you're not sharing information. One of the other things that I would say to people, particularly those who are on for job search, and some people aren't going to like this. I don't even know if LinkedIn is going to like this. I really like LinkedIn. I'm on it at least a couple of times a day. But if you are, particularly if you're in a job search, LinkedIn should not be your primary source of job leads and connections. It should not be your primary source. Your first source should be your network, and everybody has a network. Those are people that you work with, you used to work with, friends, organizations you're in, associations, people who know and love you and have always said to you, if there's anything I can do to help, just let me know. Because 80% of people, I think it's 70 to 80% of people, they get their jobs through their network. And I want to ask you a question. If you're out there and you're searching for a job, are you spending a lot of your time reaching out to people you don't know? Or are you using that as secondary? Because if you're spending all of your time trying to make your connections on LinkedIn, it's going to be a long road. So I'm hoping that you are reaching out first and often to the people who are already in your network. That's where you're going to get the quickest response. That's where you're going to get the most help. And those are the people who will vouch for you. So I don't want to ruffle any feathers here, but if you're spending all day on LinkedIn and you're asking to connect with people and you haven't met anybody face to face, stop. It's not working. Reach out to someone in your network live. Start setting up one-on-one meetings. Have coffee or virtual coffees with people. But what happens is, and I see this the same when people are looking for jobs and they're doing research. They're doing research and they're like, well, I'm doing a lot of research. Well, how many people have you met with? Well, I'm still doing research. Don't get in that space where you're doing something that clearly is not working, but it makes you feel productive and you feel like, okay, but at least I'm doing something. That's kind of lazy too, right? So LinkedIn should be secondary. Your own network that you already have should be primary. You should be reaching out to those people and letting them know what you need. So I'm going to give you an example of how LinkedIn works. And this happened just this weekend. So I was driving home to Louisville and we had somebody ride with us and they had some interviews set up. And I said, well, who do you have interviews with? And they had 5 interviews. And I said, give me the names. And we sat down together and I pulled up LinkedIn. And here's what I did. I went to each company. I looked under people. I saw who I was connected to at that company. And in 10 minutes, I was able to give her 6 connections, 1 at every company and 2 at another company. And 5 of those people are folks I'm just going to send a text and say, hey, friend of mine, can you guys connect? Can you provide her with some background information on the company, et cetera, et cetera? That's the kind of interaction quickly you get when you're talking to people about what you need. You're not going to have that quick response on LinkedIn. All right. So talk to people in person. It's all in who you know. That is true. But I think even more important, once you get the job, it's who knows you, right? So if we're talking about the workplace, and I don't want to go off on a tangent, people say it's who you know. Yes, that's part of it. But in the workspace, it's really who knows you. And do they have line of sight to your work? Because if you know them and not well, and they don't know you, or they don't know you well enough to be able to advocate when your name comes up from something, that's not a lot of value, right? So it's who you know, but it's more importantly, I would say the quality of your relationships, right? And so I just want to say one more thing about who you know. So often I talk a lot about building relationships, and I think LinkedIn is a great place to do that. And I've built some really wonderful friendships on LinkedIn. But here's the thing. People need to know who you are. And LinkedIn is a great place for you to be able to share stuff that you may not be able to share in a conversation, right? So it is who you know, but it's also the quality of that relationship. And when I say the quality, oftentimes I may be working with a client and they say, "Oh, I know a lot of people." I'm like, "Great, let's reach out to this person or that person." And you know what they say? "Well, I don't know them like that." Then that's probably not a relationship. You just know a lot of people on the job. Totally different. A relationship is when somebody sends me a text and says, "Hey, Debbie, I need to meet with you. Something's coming up. I want to run it by you." Then I'm like, "Yes, let's put some time on the books." Or do you need me to text you right now? That's what happens in a relationship. You feel comfortable reaching out and you know that they will respond. If you just know a lot of people at work and you know a lot of people on LinkedIn because you connected with them, those aren't relationships. So let me tell you a little bit about how I use LinkedIn and some of the ways that you can begin to use LinkedIn or maybe get some more ideas so that you are getting the responses you want. So I told you the first way I use it is to connect other people. It's so much easier and it takes less time, right? And then everybody has the information they need about the other person. And one of the other things I say is, yes, you're on to make connections, but, and I'm going to ask you to comment, how many people have you connected today? Or not today, but this week? How many connections where you've introduced somebody to somebody you think they need to know? Because that's part of building a network too. The other way that I've used LinkedIn is to build my company's brand. You know, when we first started out, I was on LinkedIn a lot, sharing posts and videos, trying to give people an understanding of what we did. One of my first contracts for a bigger keynote came from LinkedIn, somebody who didn't even know me. And they had been following me. And then one day I get an email and they've invited me to be the keynote at their corporate organization. So you can build a brand. And even if you don't have a business, we all have a brand, right? So you can have an external brand to your brand that you have at work. So for example, I'm just saying this randomly. Let's say you are someone who works in AI, artificial intelligence. That's your passion. So you begin to share posts informing other people about it. You will get a following of other liked minds, right? But you have to be consistent. You have to engage with other people, but then you will begin to build a brand. That is the person that's always talking about AI. If something comes up, I may say, "Hey, there's a guy on LinkedIn. He's always posting about that. Maybe we can bring him in," right? So you can use that to build your brand. You can use it to connect with people at your job because you no longer have the gatekeepers. So let's say one of the leaders in your organization loves to post at LinkedIn, right? You can chat with that person, you can follow them, you can create points of connection, and you can eventually say, hey, let's connect live. People are on LinkedIn and you don't have to worry about the gatekeepers, right? So they don't have to be totally external. They may be people that you can't connect with at work, but you will be able to connect with them on LinkedIn. The other thing is people always say, well, what do I say when I connect with people? Well, I try to only connect with people most of the time where I think they might have an interest in what I do, or I have an interest in what they do, and people that I'm genuinely interested in, right? There are some people who don't have anything to do with the kind of business I have, but their comments are so interesting. I follow them because I always learn something or get good information from them. The last thing I want to share is when you post, I think it's great if you can make sure you're posting something that has real value to people, right? There's a lot of feel good stuff, and maybe some of it is to make people aware, maybe some of it's to help them do something, but make sure that what you're posting has some value to it because everybody wants value. And the last thing I will share with you is I use LinkedIn to reach out to speakers. I've reached out to C-suite executives on LinkedIn and invited them to come on one of our webinars. And I've never had anybody say no, right? So right now, there's a couple of things we can do. Do you want to start with me showing you the kind of email that I send out? Or would you like to see some of the emails that people send me and we can kind of dissect them? Let me know in the comments. Waiting to hear from you. All right. While I'm waiting, let's pull up example number 1. Hello, Deborah. I hope this message finds you well. May I seek your advice regarding my career? And then I responded. There should be another part of that, but that question right there is fine, but I don't know anything about this person. I don't even know what industry they're in, what kind of career advice they're looking for. I think you're going to get a much quicker response if you say, hey, my name is Deborah Owens. I'm the founder of the Corporate Alley Cat. I've been following your post and I love the work you're doing with startups. I'd love to get, and you're also have digital courses. I'd love to get some time on your schedule to share with you what I'm doing and any feedback you might be able to share. Something like that. That was kind of rough, right? But do you see the difference between that and hey, I'd like to connect? All right. So let's go to example number 2. I came across your profile and I thought I'd send you a personal note to explore the possibility of connecting. Let me know if you're open to it. Best. Is that a personal note? Or is that probably a note they sent to 100 other people on LinkedIn? I don't even know if that person even read my profile, right? So that's probably one I wouldn't respond to. Make it personal and authentic. Absolutely. Right? That's just kind of like a form. You could send that to anybody. Let's go with example number 3. Hello, Deborah. How are you? Let's have a call soon. Happy holidays. Who are you? I don't know you. You haven't told me anything about you. Why do you want to connect? Right? So a lot of people send out those types of messages, and I'm not sure what the purpose of that message is. And I say that because this is a business platform. These are business people, these are people who are working. So what they want to see is someone who can be clear and concise and who they can connect with and something that has a benefit to them as well. So right now, I'd love to see if there are any more questions about LinkedIn. And what's your biggest challenge? Let me know. What's your biggest challenge? All right, so let me tell you how I reach out to people. Before I reach out to anybody, I research their profile. And when I say I research their profile, I'm looking at their header. I'm definitely looking at their about page. I'm looking at all of their work experience. I am looking at where they went to school. I'm looking at people who have extracurricular activities. Um, so those are the types of things I look for. Um, And the reason I look for that is because I'm trying to see what's a connection. What is this person's background? How can I best send a message to them with an ask and it's easy for them to say yes? And that's really my mantra. When I send a message and I have an ask, I always try to put together the message in a way that makes it easy for the person to say yes. So for the job searcher and some people who aren't getting those responses to your messages, are you making it easy for people to say yes? So I introduce myself. I tell them, this is for a speaker. I introduce myself. I tell them what our mission is and what we're doing. Usually I'm reaching out to high level executives or experts. So I let them know others who are their peers who've been on the program because I'm showing credibility. I let them know how it may be a benefit to them. Sometimes people have a book, sometimes they're in that same audience, sometimes it's a passion. And then what I do is, and this is the most important thing on an ask, especially when you want to meet or talk live with someone, I always end with this. Hey, are you available to meet on Tuesday or Thursday of next week? So let's say that's April 17th or 19th. I don't care if they can meet with me on those days or not, but here's what's going to come back to the response. They're either going to say, yeah, Tuesday at 2 o'clock works. And I will tell you 90% of the time, that's what I get. People go, yeah, because I'm making it easy for them, right? Or they may say, hey, Debbie, thanks for reaching out. I am slammed at work. I'm not going to be able to come up from air until June. And I'm like, great. How is the week of June 14th or the week of June 22nd? Right? And that way you don't have all of that back and forth. Is everybody getting that? In sales, we used to call that the assumptive close, right? So it's not like, hey, I'd like for you to meet with me. I'm looking at one of the comments now. Somebody says, any tips for a standout headline or about me section and any red flags to avoid? I'm going to start with the red flags. And so we have any recruiters on them. And I used to recruit years ago. What I will say is make sure your about page lines up with your experience, right? Because I go on LinkedIn sometimes for people or contractors that I want to hire. And sometimes I read these glorious about pages, right? They can do all of this. And then I go to their work experience. I'm like, well, where did they do any of this, right? So if it doesn't align, it's not congruent, that's a little bit of a red flag for me. I would say to stand out, let your personality shine. Your about page is about you. So you can write it in a way that tells people who you are. A good about page is delivering to other people what your story is about you, right? So this is one of the few opportunities you get to control the narrative. What do you want people to know about you when it comes to LinkedIn? So some of the ones that I really love are when people get personal on it and say kind of fun things or write it in a fun way. I love when people do headings. So when I'm scanning their about page, I can see where their levels of expertise are. What I don't like is if somebody has a business and there's not a link in your about page and I have to go find it someplace. Also the initial header that's under the photo, and this depends on what you're trying to accomplish, but some of them are really, really creative and I love them, but I don't know what you do. It's not telling me what you do, right? So make it so that people Know exactly what you do and how you can help them. Make it clear. So now, if you'd like, I'm going to show you an example of an email I send out to, or the type of email I send out to someone cold on LinkedIn. So it's going to be small print, but you'll be able to get the gist of it. All right. So I had shared a post about something in my family where someone had been lynched in 1912. And this woman reached out with such a wonderful comment. And I saw the comment, and then I looked at her profile and I was like, wow. She was an executive at a very popular company. She'd had a really great career. And I'm like, she would be great to talk with the corporate alley cat community. So the first thing I do is I say, thank you for your comment on my cousin's essay about the 1912 lynching. So I'm making that connection, right? So she knows how I got her name. I'm reaching out to you as the founder of the Corporate Alley Cat. So I'm telling her who I am. Our mission is X, Y, and Z. I say, I would love to talk with you about joining one of our webinars to discuss your dynamic career and the work that you're doing now with startups. So flattery will get you everywhere, right? Make it genuine, but everybody wants some kudos. And all of that was true. So then I share with her this month we had Paxton Baker, a minority owner of the Washington Nationals, and Tracy Odie Blunt, who is corporate communications NFL. So now I'm giving her some credibility. Like, I'm just not somebody who's randomly doing this. I have your peers come on my show on a regular basis. And then I say, I'd also like to share where the Corporate Alley Cat is headed as a startup with the goal of changing the corporate experience of Black and brown professionals. Then I say, do you have availability to connect live next week on Tuesday or Thursday? So she responded back and says, well, I usually don't do this, but I'd like to get some more information. Let's talk Tuesday at 2:00. We talked, she did the webinar, and we became friends. She's someone who I even asked to help with some coaching for my business. So do you see how just that little bit of engagement and being curious and open can lead to relationships? And she also helped with some introductions as well, right? So it wasn't something I was planning. I saw it. I was curious about the person who wrote it, and I wanted to learn more. So establishing credibility is key. Absolutely. Because you're going to get a lot of crazy messages and you're like, what are they talking about? Right. So what I want to do now is I want to see if there are any last questions. And then I want to invite you. I'll put a link below if you're interested, or you can actually comment. I have a LinkedIn toolkit. And what it does, it has actual templates for how to send messages to other people and actually get a response. So all you have to do is take a look at the template, cut and paste, and it's there. So I give you a template to reach out to somebody who you might be trying to get advice from, how to reach out to someone who's a peer. More importantly, how to reach out to someone that you may have talked to 6 months ago and you never followed up with. How do you reconnect with that? And I also give you an example of the type of message that is nice, but it probably won't get you the response you're looking for. If you're interested in that, drop your name in the comments if you want a link for the template. Again, drop your name in the comment if you want a link for the template. I'm Deborah Owens, founder of the Corporate Alley Cat, signing off. Stay scrappy, everyone.